Welcome, friends, to Inks and Issues, a podcast where we do in-depth discussions on a single comic book. I'm your host, Jonah Gregory, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Kieran Bennett.
Hi, I remembered to introduce myself this time.
Awesome. And today we're going to be talking about the 2016 series from Dark Horse Comics, Zodiac Starforce. But before we get into that, Kieran, how you been? Been reading anything good lately?
I am very good, actually. It rained like an absolute mofo here today, and even flooded parts of the city, which was very fun. I have not been reading anything interesting, but I have been watching this little indie show from Japan called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
I'm so excited.
Shit, that show is so good. It's so good.
When you posted that on Twitter, I was so happy. I was probably just like laughing to myself maniacally. How far did you get?
I'm currently on episode 7, I think, of just like the first season or storyline, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, with Jono-san Joestar and Dio Burando, which is it's amazing. Like I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of terrible, but it's also really amazing at the same time. And I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, but, I know. That's what I mean. It's hard. Like, I recommend it to everybody, but there's the warning of, it's got some pretty crazy violence, and there is dog violence. And by that, I mean Dio is a horrible, horrible man. I
cannot believe it. Like, I was literally tweeting at, I think, like, Keegan was tweeting about it, and he was like, oh, man, it was really rough. And as I read that, I was like watching it at the same time and saw like that moment in like the first or second episode or whatever, and was just like, oh my god, that was bad.
Yeah, but yeah, that series just continually gets better, and it's always reinventing itself, which is always cool. Like it stays with the martial arts stuff, but the tone shifts dramatically between series. Like 1 and 2 are probably the most similar. And then 3 gets more crazy. And then 4 tones it way down in some ways, but then the powers they're using get even more insane. So, because it's like, fantastic. It's this small town and it's like a mystery, but then all these people with powers are there, the stands, where they're finding new people with all these other crazy powers. And it amazes me how he keeps coming up with. You're like, well, clearly this is the weirdest thing he's going to come up with for this series. And like, no, he just did it again. It just keeps happening. And then I think I mentioned last time, which for us has been a while, that I was reading the next series because I can't wait for the show to catch up. And it gets even crazier. So it just keeps happening. Yeah, I haven't actually read much either. I've been working a lot. The owner of the company I work with was in town this week, so we were pretty busy with meetings and training and cross-training other departments and all that fun stuff. So I mostly was either working or playing Zelda Breath of the Wild because while I did not give in and get a Switch on launch day because, I need money for GeeklyCon, I did get the Wii U version, and that game is really good, like everyone said. And I'm pretty skeptical when people are that hyped about anything. I'm like, is it good though?
Is it really though? I'm not sure about that.
And it is. It's that good. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it. It's just so charming and like just engrossing, and it's got the exploration thing that they haven't really had since some of the very early entries in the series, where you can just kind of go wherever you want. The people that have said it feels like the original game but modernized, that is very true, which makes me happy because I grew up in the 80s and that first Zelda was like a mind-blowing experience to probably 7-year-old me at the time.
I'm gonna lose a lot of cred for this. I have never ever played a Zelda game in my entire life.
Yeah,
like not even a little bit, not even like a friend's copy or a bit online. I have never touched a Zelda game in my life.
I wouldn't even know where to tell you to begin except for either with this one. Like, if you were interested, like, I'm not offended by this, obviously, but it's like the newest one is amazing, or one is like readily available at lots of places and holds up in the weird, doesn't really tell you where to go, just kind of exploring this top-down 2D world, but at the time, that's like the first time I played a game that made me feel like, oh, this is a giant world that you're wandering around in. It's like it's 3D, but I mean, obviously it wasn't. And then 3 being the first Super Nintendo, well, the only Super Nintendo one, was just such a huge step up in, graphical fidelity at the time. And I was really into that one. I actually wrote a whole article about it for sidequesting.com back in the day when I contributed to there a few times about we did a series of like reminiscing about our favorite Super Nintendo games. So if people want to track down that article, it's
check it out, sidequesting.com.
Yeah, and look for me. I've written, I think, 3 things for them. But one of them was an interview with the creators of Space Quest, so that was really fun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was super cool. One of my favorite PC series from when I was a kid. And Dally, the editor-in-chief, of all the people, even though I'd barely written for them, he was like, hey, you're a huge Space Quest fan, so I'm giving this to you. And I was just like, okay, that's amazing. And they were super nice. It was really cool. So, are you ready to get into this?
I am. Let's rip into it.
Okay, so Zodiac Starforce is written by Kevin Panetta, and the art is by Paulina Ganucheau, which I am sure I'm saying that wrong. We found about 4 different pronunciations online when we were trying to look up how to say your name. I apologize. Because I'm sure I'm saying the 5th wrong pronunciation. I'm sure that whatever I just said is probably not even one of the real versions.
Yeah, no.
There's no way it is.
Looked it up online, still got it wrong.
Yeah, I tried. I promise I tried. So Zodiac Starforce is a take on the magical girl genre, heavily inspired by Sailor Moon and the like, which Sailor Moon is the only one I'm even remotely familiar with in that genre. So it's my only touchstone, mostly because Brittany is very into the series.
Yeah, I described it to someone as it's basically Sailor Moon, but different. Yeah. And I feel like that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because having seen... I've read the first volume of Sailor Moon, and I've seen a lot of random story pieces from being in the room while Brittany rewatched it, and the new one came out. And they kind of set this starts in what would normally be very late in the series for some of these, like for one of those series. Because the entire group has been together. They've fought and defeated, like, basically their first big boss, and already broken up. So when the book starts, they've been apart for a couple of years. I mean, they're still in high school together. They're only 16 still, so they were originally battling the forces of evil at 14, is what they're implying.
As you do.
Of course.
Fresh on the cusp of being a teenager.
As their leader, Emma, is studying for a test in the library. She suddenly gets attacked by a monster for the first time in 2 years. And fortunately, they've all kind of kept their little transformation medallions on them, just in case. So she's able to transform and start fighting it right away.
She pulls a sword out of her chest and, like, just straight up starts fighting this monster. I have to say, like, on the second and third page here, where she, like, the monster bursts through and she's just like, ugh, whatever, and then just immediately transforms, pulls the sword out of herself, and then just goes straight for it. I'm like, I'm sold right now. Yeah. This was the moment where I was like, this is really cool, and I'm digging this.
Yeah,
I'm digging this a lot.
Pages 2 and 3 are very dramatic with the transformation. One of the things that I thought was really cool, which I probably wouldn't, I mean, I kind of noticed just because the whole color scheme changes, but they actually made a point to point out in the kind of artist section in the back of this trade, is that her hair actually changes color from blonde to pink whenever she transforms, which I thought was a nice touch. So, like, her whole persona shifts when she changes.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool touch.
That is really cool, actually.
So, yeah, so she starts fighting this monster in the library. It's actually bigger and tougher than anything they fought before, which she notes right away and has to kind of start retreating immediately, and of course runs straight into Molly, who's the muscle of the group, Oh no, sorry, Kim. Sorry, I even wrote them down, and I knew I was still gonna goof up who was who, because there's a group of 4 at the beginning. So we get Kim, who's kind of the muscle. She's the one that is wanting to get the band back together. Essentially, she's like always looking for clues. Like, okay, we got to stay on the ball. Like, obviously something bad is eventually going to happen, and even though the other 3 have moved on, she's never able to quite let go.
Yeah. Which you can totally understand, because let's be honest here, if I had magical powers and I could pull a sword out of my chest, I would not want to stop doing that.
Yes. and being told, like, no, you're done forever. I mean, you can keep the powers, but you won't get to use them anymore. That would be kind of a blow.
No, I don't think so. I think you'll wind up using my chest sword every day.
Right. And her power is all shield-based, which is pretty cool. That I don't know if you've watched Steven Universe at all, but that's kind of what his power sort of evolves into, shield-based stuff. So it reminded me of that a bit.
Yeah, and so she and Kim kind of like team up, and they fight the monster. But then Emma, who I named Becky with the very good hair, she has fantastic hair. It's great.
She does.
It's great hair. And I will actually say here right now, pretty much everyone in the series has really good hair.
It's a very fashion conscious. Like, it makes me realize I dress like a slob. So, but I mean, these are like the hippest, like, high school modern kids, you know. So what do I know?
Yeah. Looking at the clothes designs and things like that at the back of the book, I realized just how little thought I put into my own clothes.
Yes. Especially the color schemes. I'm wearing a navy blue and jeans. Yeah.
Maybe
this book will make us both try harder, is what I'm trying to say.
we will. When you meet us at GeeklyCon, we'll both be dressing like 16-year-old girls. So Emma jumps forward and she stabs the monster right in its big glowy crystal heart, but it doesn't really go that well for her, and she gets all kind of, covered by weird kind of swirly purple lines, and then ends up passing out, which is obviously not a normal thing.
Right. Normally this would defeat a monster, not hurt you more.
Exactly.
Like, they even make fun of that it's obviously its weak point because it's a giant glowing gem on the bottom of the monster.
Yeah.
They regroup after the monster's gone and meet up at a typical high school movie party that it seemed to only happen in TV and movies. But that might be because I was never invited to parties. But that's not the point.
Neither was I.
Okay. We are doing a comic book podcast. I should know.
Yeah, it's like maybe there's a correlation there.
It's possible, is all I'm saying. But at the party, we get to meet a bunch of the other characters. Savvy is the kind of the small, like, kind of a tomboy a little bit. She's part of the group that, I don't know, she kind of falls somewhere in the middle. Like, to me, she didn't seem like, oh, we have to get back together, but she definitely was trying to keep the group together as friends. Like, she didn't seem to care so much about the actual magical stuff. But when they drifted apart after they defeated the last boss, I guess, she's clearly more upset about losing them as friends than caring about fighting together.
Yeah.
Molly, who is the 4th member of their group, really doesn't want to have anything to do with this. She's off talking to some boys who are kind of all over her. She's like the popular kid out of the group, it seems like.
Yeah, so they all kind of meet up together, and Kim is basically trying to get the group back together. And Molly doesn't want to have an absolute bar of it. And then at the very end of their conversation, Emma bounces back and says, "Do you really think that things were better back then, Kim?" And she cries and storms away crying. So obviously there's something going on there.
We see some of the other side characters. We see that Savvy has a boyfriend who's the typical, like, jerk that she's going to have to dump by the end of the story arc.
He's such an anus. I can't believe it.
Yeah, just to have someone that you really, really hate to be in the first book.
Yeah, it's just like, there's no, like, I don't know. He confused me because it's like, this is my boyfriend, Darren. And it's like, hey, Darren, how's it going? And Darren's just like, I hate you. I want you all to die. And it's like, why is she even with this? Like, I don't know. Why is she with him? I don't understand.
Yeah,
but
it's one of those where all her friends are like, "This guy's the worst," and she's like, "Well, he's not bad all the time." Which I'm sure we've all known friends who were in those kind of relationships.
And girl, you are in an abusive relationship, and you need to get out of there right now because it's not good for you. It's not good.
But the good news is she bumps into Lily, who is a great character.
I love Lily. Yeah. Lily's so good.
Lily's the best. She's the super nice, like, tries to take care of everybody, just like wants to be there for all her friends, and we find out that she has a friend who's gone missing recently.
Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, so there's a little mystery going on, but it actually resolves that a lot on a reread, like way faster than I remember.
Yeah. And so she shows up shortly afterwards with her kind of posse of, hoes and biatches. And who should be the newest member of the hoe squad but Alice?
Come on, this is a young adult book. They're called the Mean Girls. Let's not get...
That's right. They're the Mean Girls. Whatever. So the newest member of the Mean Girls is Alice. But yeah, Alice is now is just a complete asshole now, and she like pushes Lily away, and doesn't want to have anything to do with her friend, which is obviously super sad. And so Molly is then about to throw down with Diana, but then Diana touches Emma's arm, and Emma sort of collapses, and she ends up having this crazy vision of swirling portals and space and creepy faces and stuff, and then she wakes up in a cave, and her friends are going to go and take her to see Astra, who is the goddess who has given the Zodiac Starforce their Zodiac Starforce powers. And then we get to see the transformation sequence, which is available now from the Geekly Podcast Network.
Oh, I hear it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Have we plugged them every episode so far? Because if not, we should. That's my point.
Maybe. Yeah, and so they had their transformation sequence, which wasn't as dramatic as I was expecting it to be, considering how closely this sort of ties, I guess, to Sailor Moon. But yeah, they all transform and they go and see Astra, and and then Astra's just like, Emma's gonna die. She's infected with Negaverse energy, and you can't open a portal to there because then Samaria is going to come through if you open the portal to like go to the the Shadow Zone or whatever it's called, and try and save Emma. So don't do that.
Right.
You need to let Emma die. And I was like, that's really cold.
Yeah, she's kind of the worst leader. Imagine if anytime, my point of reference, and maybe if Mike Bachman hears this, he can appreciate this, is more a Power Rangers situation. Like, she's the Zordon when one of them's losing their powers and dying. If Zordon because that happens pretty frequently, let's admit it. And if he was like, well, they're done. They're just going to die. So just let's move on and keep fighting in your Zords.
That was kind of what it was like. And she's like, your duty is to protect the Earth from monsters and stuff, not save each other. And it's like, what? Come on.
Yeah.
What is this?
She's not a great mystical leader, in my opinion. If I was ranking them, she'd be pretty low on the totem, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the end of the issue.
That is the end of issue 1. And yeah, I have to say I'm pretty impressed so far.
Yeah, that was a good kickoff.
It's a very strong first issue.
I think I got the first issue in some sort of humble bundle because, those are pretty frequent and usually chock full of amazing things. And I think I didn't even finish the first issue, and just bought the trade after a few pages. I was like, because I think it was a day I was already headed into the comic book store. I'm like, I think I'm just going to stop here and go get it. I don't need to read any further.
May as well just grab the whole thing right now.
Which shows you that I don't want to jump ahead, but our final judgments might be pretty positive on this one, is what I'm hinting at.
Oh no, I'm going to be shitting on this at the end. Just do a complete 180.
Yes,
and be like,
actually, I hate it.
Yeah, I've been praising it for an hour and a bit, but actually it was terrible.
Yeah. So issue 2 starts with Emma and Savvy in class texting, even though Emma keeps asking her, please stop texting me because we're in class. Getting her in trouble with the teacher.
And so Savvy's like, she basically says like, are you worried about dying? And Emma's just like, nah, it's all good. Like, she's obviously wrong because I feel totally fine.
And there's been no other monsters.
Exactly, there's no other monsters. Like, nothing is happening. And so then they leave class, and we get our first little hint of Savvy's blossoming relationship with Lily, because they've apparently been texting each other quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've said, like, what I really liked here is that they were kind of like teasing her about like texting Lily quite a lot, but it was obviously implied that they were like, it's like, oh, you guys are like in a relationship, ha 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 ha. But it was more like they were teasing her about like the fact that she's in a new relationship, not like it wasn't a thing that she was in a relationship with another girl. It was just like, yeah, okay, cool, and then just moved on completely.
It was more that they're like, aren't you still dating that dude that we all hate?
Yeah, and you still dating this like complete Asperger? Like, shouldn't you like kick him to the curb first,
yes,
and then start going out with this girl?
Right.
Which I thought was really good, because it allowed them to have like it allowed them to have more of like an actual relationship together, rather than having to like kind of cross that whole hurdle of like, oh, we're in a same-sex relationship, let's talk about that for ages. Instead, it was more just like, yeah, let's get straight to being super duper cute and adorable.
Right. And it allows their friends to give her a hard time without it being for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. It just turns out like three of the Zodiac Starforce are just massive homophobes.
Yeah,
they save the world.
Would
really
bring the book down if you think about it.
yeah. Great first issue. Ooh, second one not so good.
Second one, ooh man, not what I was expecting. Real nosedive.
Yeah.
So we find out there's the volleyball game, and Kim is on the team because, you know, she would be an amazing volleyball player, obviously.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, she's awesome. And then we find out Diana is also on the team, and she's like, just get the ball to me. And
yeah, because I'm the point scorer.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, of course you are.
And they all are just like, God, hate her.
She's so mean. Why is she so mean all the time?
We see that they all go to the game, but we find out that Emma has actually kind of been hiding how bad things are getting for her. It kind of just shows her like, oh, I'll catch up. And then she's just like in so much pain. She's crying as soon as everyone walks away. So she's got this. She must have a very high tolerance for pain, with able to hold back this crazy space infection from Dimension X or whatever.
So they get to the game. Darren is just being like a huge drip. Savvy and Lily, obviously, you know, they're kind of getting a little bit closer. And then Alice comes over. And she's like, oh, it's me, Alice. Can I come sit next to you and tease you and be a complete asshole? And then Savvy just like, I mean, this is the kind of the bit where I was like, yeah, Savvy's the best. She's just like, you know what, Alice, you can go away because you're being really mean. Darren, you can also go away because you're also being a complete douche. And I'm just like, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Because
it's good. Because one of the pet peeves of mine in most young adult things is how long they put up with people who are being straight up bullies. Here's a little peek into my past. When I was in grade school, I was one of the bigger kids, and I would actually, if I saw someone being bullied, I would step in and like mess with the bully and make them back off. So I've always hated bullies. So whenever I'm watching something, it's very hard for me to see the bullying thing, because I have this instinct of like, I want to step in right now and stop this, because I've always done this.
And this is like, and I appreciate this, because like in so many other things that I've read, like it would just be like, oh, Alice is so mean, why is he going to be like that? Oh, Darren's such an asshole, why is he going to be like that? And people would just kind of tolerate it, and it's like, no,
you don't have to tolerate it. No,
you don't have to. Like, just
no,
tell her
you
to
don't.
piss off. And she does. She's just like, you're just being a jerk. Go away.
Yeah.
And then he does, because he's like ashamed. And so the game progresses, but Kim and Molly are kind of like dominating the game and not giving Diana her chance to, you know, be the greatest volleyball player in the whole world. So she just straight up turns evil and opens a crazy portal in the gymnasium and just dumps a whole shit ton of monsters into the gym, as you do.
Yeah, and then of course we get to see, this was a little bit more transformation sequency of what you would expect. So they like usher everyone out of the room, bar the door, and immediately transform into their Zodiac forms, where we get a little more Sailor Moon-y. looking transformation sequence.
Were they like their poses and the light? And,
yes. Yeah. Well, it's a little tricky, I'm sure, with a book like this, because this book does a really good job of the pacing and not drawing out sequences, whereas shows with actual transformation sequences, it's an excuse to kill 10 to 20 seconds by recycling animation. I've noticed that as I've gone back and watched some older anime. Even Fist of the North Star, which I've been watching, basically has a transformation sequence in almost every episode where Kenshiro, who's the martial arts man, like charges up and rips his shirt off and gets all super buff. And I'm just like, wow, that's his transformation sequence. They even have one in this like martial arts anime from the late 70s. So it's a great way to kill time. Also, those ones usually have, intros and outros that last 2 full minutes so that they can kill another 4 minutes there. So they don't have that luxury when you only have usually on average, 22 pages per comic?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I did, like, looking back, I'm not sure why I expected that I would, like, turn the page and I'd see,
it
like,
just
little
keeps
panels
going.
of them, like, spinning and then, like, sort of, like, clothes kind of, like, sealing, armor flying out. And
I'm just saying, if they want to do a flip book that they sell at their table at cons, I would buy it.
I would be there. I would totally be there.
This is actually a pretty cool fight scene because it's the first time we get to see them all work as a team and actually fight a bunch of monsters together.
It's like super badass. Because like they all have like different powers and they all like do different things. They don't all just like have chest swords. Like Kim has like her armor and Emma has her sword, and then like you see at this point Molly has like head laser.
Right.
That like opens portals, which is pretty freaking badass.
Yeah.
And
they
you
figure
don't
out
see
they can't kill them, so they want to just shove them back into their own dimension because they're worried if they kill more of them, either they will get infected or Emma will get worse. So they're like, well, let's just shove them back into the portal, even though they were explicitly told not to open portals.
And so they eventually manage to defeat the monsters, but Molly has a really hard time closing the portals because it's almost like something's stopping her from closing them.
Yes.
Oh, that's what we call foreshadowing.
So then we see Savvy running over to Lily's house because she I had to shove her out of the room. I didn't get to tell her what was going on, so she feels really bad. She's like she just had a friend push her away that she had lost, so she knows this is gonna hurt her especially bad. And that's I gotta say, another thing that I really liked about this series is like, yeah, you can say, oh, it's all about feelings. Why is that a bad thing? Like, maybe that's not for everybody, but for a young adult book, are targeted at a group of people who are figuring out what emotions really are as you grow older. That's very important to realize, oh, I need to be aware that other people's emotions are going to be hurt by my actions. And this book did a good job of showing that your actions have consequences even when you had good intentions.
Yeah, and that like you need to actually take responsibility for the things that you do and say.
Yes. So she kind of struggles with her whether or not she will tell Lily, and she kind of realizes very quickly, like, if I'm going to continue this friendship, even if it doesn't go beyond friendship, like, I need to tell her everything right now, put all the cards out there, or else like I just need to walk away essentially. And so she does, and I was kind of surprised that happened so early in the series. That's another trope that always irritates me, when they just the secret, my dark past,
so annoying. My dark past. That really,
sorry Tim, I love you, Tim.
Really, I love you, Tim. Extremely soft on place. That really annoys me when it's just like, oh, I can't tell you, and it's just like you just have like lies built on each other over and over and over again, and everyone just ends up getting really mad at each other, and everyone gets really annoyed, and it's like you could literally solve all of these problems right now with like a 5-minute conversation,
right?
Just fucking do it. And once again, Savvy proves herself to be like the most somehow inadvertently meta-aware character in the whole show, and just like constantly destroys annoying tropes. Like, she's like, oh, I really offended Lily before, and normally you'd be like, oh, I offended her before. Gee, I hope things will work out all right.
Yeah.
But instead she's like, nope, I'm just going to take this head on, and I realized that I should probably just tell her, so you know what? I'm just going to tell her. And I'm just like...
Yeah, again.
Thank you, again.
Very emotionally mature for their age, which, I appreciate. Yeah. It also reminded me, as you were saying that you could solve every episode of most sitcoms by them just having a 5-minute conversation. Like, pretty much Friends is the we all lied to each other, the show. That's where all of their conflict comes from.
We are terrible, terrible people.
Maybe it should have been called Terrible Friends.
Oh, damn.
Your burnt show from the 90s? I don't even remember.
Yeah. A show from the 90s that ended, like, I don't even know how many years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically she sits down to, like, tell her about everything. And so we cut back to Emma, who is at home, and her chest is looking really not that good. Like, she does not look healthy at all.
Like, instead of where her sword should come out, it's like a black hole. Kind
of. It's like, it's kind. She has like little porcelain cracks in her skin.
Yeah, that's a good description.
Like, it looks pretty nasty. And so she like basically sits on the bed and she's like, Astra, what the hell? I'm going to die. Can you please help me? She has this crazy like vision dream of what looks like other Zodiac Starforce members, but from like different time periods,
including the very first one though being Diana.
Yes,
who's king bitch in their school.
What?
Yeah.
What? How is that possible?
But it was cool.
Could Diana be evil?
They see like a Victorian era one.
Those were so cool.
Yeah. I kind of wish they had shown more of these, but, like I said, limited space. I understand. I used to write for comics. My brother would break up my 1 page into like 4 pages sometime and then slap me in the back of the head. So,
and so then basically her friends essentially come around and wake her up from her crazy dream where she like just saw her dead mum essentially in her dream. And they're basically like, you can't keep lying to us about this. We want to help you. And then Emma slips below my rankings here by being really annoying and saying, no, it's my own problem. You guys don't need to help me with it. And I'm just like, lady, you are dying. You are literally dying right now. Accept the help that you can get. Oh my God.
But
take a couple leaves out of Savvy's book. Be aware. Come on.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have a congenital heart defect, and sometimes when you're dealing with something that you've just always had, it's hard to ask for help from people that you love and trust because you don't want to worry them. So I can actually relate to her feelings of not wanting to upset the people around you, even though you probably should ask for more help. Does that make sense?
Jonah, why you gotta dunk on me?
I'm just trying to show you from her perspective.
Oh no!
That I definitely connected with this scene.
As I've written here, I totally get it, but I don't like it.
Yes,
I understand it completely, but at the same time, it's just like, why don't you want your friends' help?
Yes.
You gotta be together and like fight monsters and be magical girls together, please. And it's I get it. I totally understand.
Okay.
just want to be clear. I'm not being like really insensitive to people, who have diseases.
Okay. As long as we're clear. I don't want you to paint you as the bad guy. That's why I'm saying. Let's clarify before we move on. So Molly decides, we got to save her. She's going to open the portal, but it doesn't work, she thinks, until they look outside.
Question mark?
And realize, whoops, there's a giant portal over the entire city.
There's a giant portal. Oh, no.
So
it was not what we wanted to do.
Yeah, her power of portals is somehow being subverted in a way that is going to make their lives pretty crappy for the next issue.
Yeah. And so that is the end of issue 2, which is obviously a great place to end it. And then we kick off issue 3 with a whole crap ton of monsters just falling out of the portal.
We have some drama with Kim and Molly placing accusations back and forth about whose fault this is, and Savvy once again being the emotional center of the group, it seems like, at this point, and basically telling them to shut up, we need to figure this out, we can argue later.
Queen, yes.
Yeah, on reread, she's the best character, I think. It's easy to say.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So basically, they're just kind of they're hanging around there, like, look, we've got to do something about this. They grab Emma, hitch it to Lily's house, which Savvy believes would be a safe place, and so outside just a whole bunch of monsters are all over the show, ripping shit up. And Emma tries to kind of like tough it out and say, like, this is my thing that I've got to take care of. You guys have got to let me go into the portal by myself and take care of it. And everyone immediately shits on that idea because it's terrible. And then Emma just passes out anyway, so that kind of negates her plan. And so then they get on over to Lily's house and leave her there. And I kind of like that Lily, when she's talking to her, when Savvy's talking to her, that is, and she says, you got to take care of our dying friend while we go and like fight monsters. Lily isn't immediately okay with it. She isn't like, yep, yeah. Can do, because I'm super chipper. She's like, no, I'm actually really not. I'm not 100% sure on this one. This seems like very dangerous, but
seems like
but I trust you.
Bad idea, I want to say.
Yeah, it's like, it seems like you could get hurt or die, maybe, And it's just like, yeah, no, this is reasonable, and I totally like it. Also, like, there's just like a nice little note there where Kim is just like rooting through all of Lily's books, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna borrow Dune if that's okay."
Oh, Dune is one of my favorites, so I 100% appreciate that reference in this book. Do young people know about Dune? That's my question.
I know about Dune. I've never read it.
Well, there's the problem right there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to.
It's okay.
I haven't played Zelda. I've never read Dune.
It took me a while to get to Dune, I will admit, because of the movie. The movie's not good, and I'd always associated everything Dune related with the movie, which I'd only seen parts of on TV, and went, "This is bad, like really, really bad." The book is amazing, and it makes me extra sad because it's David Lynch, who doesn't even want his name attached with how badly the studio botched it for him.
Yeah.
So we go to Emma being stuck in her dreamscape where she sees her mom, or who she thinks is her mom. She sees her back turned, and basically two paths where she either has to choose between her mom or her friends. And we see her immediately running to her mom to stay there, and the path crumbling from beneath her and her falling into the void. So she's having some pretty trippy dreams at this point. And because it's a bunch of magical girls, it's like, as the reader, you don't really know, like, is this happening or not? Because it honestly could go either way.
Yeah, I know there is a certain element of, is this just a dream, or are you literally falling through the void?
Yes.
Having just chosen your dead mother over your friends.
Exactly. Who's to say? But we get some more cool battles, which is always appreciated. Yeah, we get to see Savvy actually, like, do cool magical girl magic moves and celestial tidal wave the hell out of some monsters, which was an excellent scene. I'm honestly kind of hope this eventually gets an animated version, because seeing these fights animated would make me so happy.
That would be real good. Shortly after that, Josh, who is Kim's boyfriend, he like rings her in the middle of the battle, and Kim just like immediately answers the phone. He's like, "Hey, yeah, so I saw a whole bunch of monsters and stuff. You're good?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm cool." And he's like, "Okay, I'll see you later. Bye." And just like hangs up.
He's a weird character, but I kind of like him.
Yeah, it was just like a cool little exchange. It was like, I don't know, it was super cute. I really liked it.
Did they explicitly say that he knows what's going on with her and her powers or not? I don't remember.
There's a bit where I think one of them is like, I can't believe you told Lily about everything, and Kim's like, yeah, whatever, I told Josh ages ago.
Okay. And, I couldn't remember, so I'm like, he's got to know though, right? Because like he's checking up on her and just like, yeah. But he's a pretty cool character. I like their relationship too, because they got this playful, not antagonistic. What's the word I'm looking for? Where they give each other crap back and forth, but in a fun, flirty kind of way.
Yeah.
But then we see Nicole showing up, telling them that Cameria has promised Diana and her group places in this new monster-infested world if they kind of help them take over and take out the Zodiacs. They're all just being a bunch of jerks again, like usual, and fighting on the side of the monsters, which, as we know in these kind of stories, never ends well for them.
Oh, no, of course not. You never fight on the side of the monsters because the monsters always lose.
Yeah, eventually.
It's just science, you know. Then we cut back to Lily's place, and Alice and Darren, ass clown, and some other person who I think her name is something like Carrie, but it's not really that important because she only does one thing. They show up and they're like, "Oh, hey, we heard that Emma was sick. Surprise! We're here to kidnap her."
Yeah. Hey, turns out we're super evil.
We're actually really evil. Before I was just pushing you and embarrassing you socially. Now I'm threatening your life. And so basically they kidnap Lily and Emma and take them away to see Diana.
Molly, Kim, and Savvy are realizing that they're outnumbered, outgunned. They need to retreat, which I don't know. I wasn't expecting originally, because like these stories usually they just kind of hold the line forever, and so it's like, oh, they're actually using real tactics. That's smart.
Yeah. Like normally, and so like honestly, when I was reading it, I was expecting one of them to do like that sort of that classic sort of shonen-esque thing where they'd just be like, oh, well, it's okay, I've still got my ultimate power, and just like, you know, destroy all the monsters or something, but it never happened.
They're like, no, this is going badly, let's go
this
regroup.
Is going badly.
They go they go back to Lily's and find out that everything's gone to crap there. And then they see this, which I don't think we had mentioned. There's this girl who's kind of been stalking them the whole book, but only shows up, I think, 2 other times. I think once per issue seems to be what they've been doing.
But only for like 1 panel in each issue.
And every time Kim seems to be the one that sees her and is like, it's that creepy girl who keeps following us everywhere. and that seems to be the extent of their interaction. But it's kind of awesome because when they find out what's going on with her, her and her friends have formed the High School Detectives Club, which is basically they're like Scooby and the gang in the middle of this like Sailor Moon situation, which is amazing to me. I loved that twist because I did not know where they were going with that. Like, I expected her to be evil the first time. The second time I'm like, okay, she's probably not evil, but it's weird. And then it turns out they're like, we're your biggest fans. Anything you need, we will help you with, which I thought was great.
I thought it was great. And then we cut away to a real quick scene where Diana is basically just like, I'm really evil. I'm going to destroy everything because I can. And also, you suck. Also, I used to be a Zodiac Starforce. And then it just cuts away again. But, you know, it nevertheless has that revelation out in the air that she was indeed a Zodiac Starforce.
Yes, as implied in the crazy space dimension.
Yes, which may or may not be real. We still don't know.
Yes. So we cut back to the club that they actually introduce themselves and are like, we're not just creepy stalkers. We're actually trying to help you. And actually give them some useful information. So their group actually helped enhance the story of there's this known group of superheroes that mysteriously disappeared 2 years ago, and of course they would have fans. Why wouldn't they? It actually does make sense. Like, if no one ever talked about it, that seems way weirder. Everyone just like, yeah, there was monsters like 2 years ago. I mean, come on.
Oh, that was so long ago. Oh my gosh, that's so 2014. Still harping on about it.
So, so they get to actually, like, contribute, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we get back to Diana giving her, basically her monologuing scene where she gets to explain how,
Classic.
her team died, and the whole power thing is BS because they're just going to replace them if they die, and it doesn't really matter. You're just a soldier, and they don't care about you, and that's why she turned to the dark side, essentially. But as you kind of hinted at, like, you can kind of tell where they're going with this a little bit, and yes, it turns out she brings back her team as gross zombie Starforce people, which when I started this book, I didn't expect that, but like you said, the writing's kind of on the wall as it gets closer.
I was just like, there were just a couple bits where I'm just like, you know what? I bet her whole team died, and she's the only one left.
Yeah.
And even though I was totally right, I was still 100% into it and really enjoying it, and was totally on board.
Yes.
Even though I knew what was going to happen, like, I was still so engrossed and so into the story that I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Just because you see where a story's going does not necessarily mean it's a bad story, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No. It's pretty often in movies and comics where I see where it's going, like, and I don't know if that's a product of just having read a lot of comics or having written a lot of things, but either way, I've heard it's actually an annoyance of people who hang out with writers, that their friends who are writers will be like, oh, this is gonna happen, and inevitably it does.
Yeah. So the issue then closes out with Emma being thrown into the portal, and then she grabs Lily just as the rest of the Zodiac Starforce shows up, and she basically says, like, I wanted you to see this. Boom, possesses Lily, and Lily is now evil, and that is the end of our third issue.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Just to make you, if you didn't hate Diana yet, now you really have to.
And she's corrupted the purest, goodest character. Ugh.
Yeah. So issue 3 opens with Lily, as you said, as you put it in the notes, for sure possessed for reals this time.
For sure.
Okay. I maybe added a little to that, which of course does not make Savvy very happy. Like, she seems quite upset about this situation.
Mildly so.
And then, of course, the evil version of Lily wants to immediately fight Savvy because, of course, it's going to go for the person the most invested.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're evil and you're fighting, you need to cause physical harm and emotional harm. Everyone knows that.
Yes, exactly. So we get to go back to Crazy Space Dimension with Cameria offering to bring back Emma's mom, which...
Oh, it is literally called the Dark Dimension. Sorry.
Is it
it's called
now?
Nephos. It is called Nephos, but she says, welcome to Nephos, the Dark Dimension. So we were right the whole time.
Nice. That works for me, man.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. So we kind of get to cut between some cool battle scenes of the Zodiacs fighting the possessed teen squad. And
possessed teen squad.
And Emma struggling with the decision of to bring back her mother. But when she kind of figures out that this is all going to end bad, the evil entity Cameria just starts bringing back a legion of dead Zodiacs in crazy zombie form. So she's like, oh, now I have to fight this crazy army of zombie face people. Great. this bodes well.
At the same time that Savvy and Lily are kind of floating up in the air, and Lily's trying to, like, break through to her and saying, like, you need to come back because there are people here who love you. You know, you have to help protect this world. And then Emma's like, oh my god, I need to save my friends. I need to help them. And actually, now that I think about it, this is actually entirely your fault. You are the bad guy here, not Astra or me or anyone. Mm-hmm. And so at the same time that she rejects her offer, essentially, Lily and Savvy have a good old pash in the sky, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's just a massive
adorable. It's emotional. You feel so happy for the characters.
Right?
Yeah, it's great. And the best part is that actually triggers super secret 5th member of the Zodiac Starforce, Lily.
What?
Which I was hoping that's where this book was going. Like, as soon as they introduced her, I was like, well, she's going to be the new member of the team. But I thought they were going to kill someone off, and I was really happy they didn't. because that was my first thought.
Yeah, like, cause when I saw her, when I saw the kiss, I was just like, ooh, yes. And then I saw her transforming. I'm just like, ooh, yes. But then I saw it cut back to Emma with like the bomb thing that she's gonna throw at Samaria, and I was just like, oh my god, no. Lily's great, but don't kill Emma at the expense of a new member. Oh, I got really worried for a moment, but the worry was for naught as she manages to get herself out of the portal and she lives. It's all Jeezy and Lazy.
Yeah, and she gets. I don't know if this is a new power. It's a new power, right? She gets the Gemini split, where she splits into two Emmas. And can then wreck twice as many evil dudes at once, which is awesome. I thought that was a great addition to the power set. Like,
it was very cool.
It's actually one I don't. It's not one you see often. Like, powers are tricky because like there's been superheroes forever, and it seems like introducing something. Yeah, introducing something that feels fresh is not an easy thing to do, and their group of powers has a little of everything, which I thought was neat. Like the portals thing, rather than it just being a death ray out of Molly's forehead, was not exactly what I was expecting. And the ability to split into and fight individually, I thought was also kind of a cool one. That, I mean, it's not like nothing's ever been done, but you don't see quite as often. So I thought that was a pretty cool addition to their group power set.
Yeah, they have a whole bunch of really interesting powers, and like when you read the other battles, they all kind of interact with each other in really interesting ways as well. It's not like they just kind of do their own thing, and occasionally, they combine their ultra beams or whatever. Like they bounce off each other and combine in cool ways, and it's kind of like, I'm really interested in the characters and I'm really interested in the stories, but I'm also really interested in like seeing them use their powers and seeing them like fight, because like that in of itself is really interesting. And yeah, I think it's really cool. That like whenever there's a fight coming up, I'm not like, ugh, a fight. It's like, cool, I get to see them use the cool powers and like, kick monsters in the face.
Yes. And Lily getting her powers for the first time was great. And she's just puts up her dukes and is like, I guess let's fight? She has no idea. And then she gets...
Let's see what happens.
Tonfas, the little billy club type things.
Yeah.
And just starts bopping zombies in the face immediately. And it's
so
just like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, woohoo, let's go.
So yeah, her character remains adorable. And I love it. But yeah, they beat back the monsters, close the portal. It's a pretty cool, final scene. We get to, like you said, kind of see them each use their powers. It doesn't overstay its welcome, which is also a thing with battles that I always find tricky, is fatigue when you're reading those sets in with me very quickly. It's the same kind of problem like if you're watching a movie with a lot of car chase sequences. That is also a problem.
Yes, teenage girls fighting monsters and cars, very similar.
Mystery Science Theater is who once called those types of scenes the drum solo of movies. So I can't take credit for that as much as I would love to. But yeah, they save the day. They get to call on the power of Astra without feeling bad about it, and everything's hunky-dory again. Or is it?
Is it?
Because we get an epilogue.
So this actually legitimately surprised me, because I read the thing, and they had the little sort of denouement, like 2 weeks later, and she's like in the bath. I thought it was really funny that she's like in the bathroom, just like a snake bursts through the wall and like attacks her in the bathroom. It's like, what the fuck? And then everyone else is already there, and they're just like, yeah, let's fight. The end. I was like, cool, like what a great little like self-contained arc. Obviously there's going to be more, because like there's way too much effort here for there not to be more. And then I just like turned the page and just boom, 1-page epilogue. I was like, oh, that's a nice little tasty morsel for the very end of the book.
Yeah, I mean, it feels necessary, because they could have ended, like, this could be you remove that page and this could be a single volume story, and I'd have been fine.
I would have been totally.
They could have dropped the mic, walked away, and I would be singing the praises of this book like forever. It is that good. But I have not read beyond this yet, but I definitely plan on it.
Oh shit! Yeah. But we should probably actually describe what the epilogue is, rather than just kind of,
Yeah, do it.
Well, I mean, there isn't really a lot there.
No.
There's two people in red uniforms, and a guy puts a folder on a dish that says Zodiac Starforce, and then there's a whole bunch of different Zodiac Starforce people, but none of them are our characters.
No, and one of which says deceased across.
Deceased.
Yeah.
What does that?
So there's another team of 6.
Ooh.
But
Mysterious.
it's a good way to make you want another volume. Definitely worked on me. So I guess we will do our final thoughts, which you can probably guess where we're leaning. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't know. I feel like there's a bit of uncertainty, bit of ambiguity here. Who's to say?
Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So would I recommend this comic? Oh my goodness. Yes, girl, I totally would. It was fantastic. As you said, I made absolutely no effort to hide the fact that I thought this was really, really good. The story was really interesting. The lore kind of mythos thing that they had sort of set up with the Zodiac Starforce and like their abilities and stuff was also really interesting. And I want to actively read more about this to find out more about it and kind of understand how it works and like see more of the powers and stuff. And then obviously with the introduction of other like Zodiac Starforce teams, I want to find out more about that. And like all the characters are really great and they have like really interesting relationships with each other and they're all written super duper well. Like they're, with the exception of like Alice, who is, like intentionally a bitch caricature. None of the characters kind of made me like go, oh, this is really boring. Like you are a boring character. They're all really interesting and they're all really great. And like, it's so cool to see like a team of all young girls who literally kick monsters in the face and are really awesome. And yeah, I would totally recommend this to pretty much anyone and just be like, just go pick it up. It's a really super fun read. If you don't pick up the second volume, whatever, story totally works by itself. And it's 100% recommend, a strong recommend.
Yeah, I totally agree. Alice actually, volume 2, I mean, she was under control, so maybe we'll get to see her redemption arc. That's what I'm kind of hoping for.
Maybe.
Other than what was that guy's name? It was Savvy's ex-boyfriend now. Other than him, who was a jerk before evil powers were involved. Darren.
Darren.
So other than Darren
wasn't even
was
possessed.
He was
Darren
not
just
even
wanted
possessed.
To be there.
He was just a jackass.
A jackass.
It made this volume as a standalone story is amazing. Like it sets up enough character development. It has enough backstory and lore building. Like you could just read this, and if that's all they wrote, I'd be totally happy. Like I would say, yes, I'm a fan of this single volume book that was amazing. But it's nice because there's more, and I really am looking forward to volume 2. I don't know if it is out yet. I should probably check that before we started recording. But it is a pretty recent book. There's a lot of thought put into the characters' lives as people and not just as superheroes. This seems like the kind of storyline where, because you have so much to fall back on with familiarity with Sailor Moon and that genre of magical girls in general, the writer could have become lazy and did not do so, which I greatly appreciate. You don't need to have any knowledge of magical girl genre stuff or lore or any of that to appreciate this book, which I really, really liked about it.
Yeah.
Genre stuff like this is tricky in that regard because sometimes if it's a science fiction book, they're going to assume you've read, the big name sci-fi books and just kind of let you fall back on that. But you can't really do that when you're building your own world. You have to have everything there, and this book had it. And I mean, I'm not even talking about the characters themselves. I mean, there's enough hinted at just in the world building just in these 4 issues that you get a really good sense of the history of the Starforce and that they've been around for a really long time. It's well established. Now, they don't really get into, like, if they've been around this many times throughout history, how come regular people don't know about these? But maybe they'll get into that later. I don't know. I'm very curious to see where they go with it. The characters were incredibly well written. That is a huge boon, especially for a young adult comic. Just seeing a diverse group of characters who all have their own distinct personalities and flaws, but you see them all come together and work as a team with their various powers. It's just really refreshing to see something like this, especially with the like wealth of comics and cartoons and things that are aimed at that age group. And the big name stuff that mostly comes to like movie theaters that are for kids, I think is trash, like literal garbage trash. Don't make this. Stop making this. Turn this book into a movie and it will make you money, is what I'm trying to tell studios right now.
Totally. Like, okay, Zodiac Starforce, about 5 teenage magical girls. I am a 23-year-old male, currently going on 24. I'm white, not really all that interested in, girl stuff. I would fucking see this movie like 3 times. It's really good. It's really good. Make it into a movie. Oh my God.
Yeah. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. Like, the more we talk about it, the more I just kind of want to reread it right now. That does not happen with me very often. Like, I don't like, because there's, we're trying to get through a lot of stuff for the show and whatnot. It's like, I don't really have a lot of time to reread things. I would reread this right now. That's how good it is. So it's an easy recommendation. And being a young adult series, like you said, you can recommend it to pretty much anybody. So yeah, that's another boon, because that's another hard thing with comics. Like, people like, oh, I'm a person who's 15, or maybe that's a little skewing old. I'll put it this way. I have 2 young children and they can't see movies that star Batman and Superman. So parse that. They love Batman and Superman. Thank God for Lego Batman the movie, which was amazing, by the way, if you haven't seen it.
I need to go see it.
Yeah, I loved it. This isn't really a movie podcast, but comic book related, so I'm going to let it slide. Yeah. So that's going to wrap it up for us this episode. You can find us on Twitter at inksandissues.com. Kieran, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at MrK_Bennett. You can also find me on another Dungeons and Dragons podcast called For Crits and Giggles, and we are at 4C&G Podcast. And I really have to go.
Yes, he really, really does. Okay, save your file before you leave so we don't lose it.
Of course.
Okay. Bye. Peace out. Have a good time.
Goodbye, everybody.